is Valley News Live at 4.
Good afternoon, everyone. The Grand Forks double murder trial continued today as the state called 6 Grand Forks law enforcement officers to the stand. The officers were emotional, having to painfully relive May 27th, 2020, when their brother in blue, Officer Cody Holty, was shot and killed. Officer Andrew Rebel was there when the shootout took place and explained to the court how the tragic turn of events played out.
A large open wound to his right arm. Didn't look like it was bleeding. He did have a pool of blood develop underneath of him pretty rapidly. He's extremely pale. I can see his chest rising and falling as he was breathing.
If convicted, Solomon Pendleton could face life in prison. The court went into recess for the holiday weekend just about 2 hours ago. Testimonies are expected to resume Tuesday morning. Stay with Valley News Live as we continue to follow this trial and bring you the latest from the courtroom. One person is dead and several are injured after a serious crash near the Grand Forks Airport. That happened around 7:30 this morning at the notoriously problematic intersection near Gateway Drive and Highway 2. It's currently a construction zone with head-to-head traffic. The North Dakota Highway Patrol took a report of a semi driving recklessly. Then 5 minutes later, the accident was reported. 8 vehicles were involved, leaving cars, trailers, even a boat strewn across the road and a nearby ditch. That same construction zone was also the site of 2 crashes yesterday, which doesn't bode well for the influx of traffic expected this holiday weekend. Speaking of the holiday weekend, here's Hutch with a first look at the all-important forecast. Hutch?
Stacy, it's sizzling out there. And speaking of Grand Forks, here's a look at just a couple of fair weather cumulus clouds. That is it. The heat is on. All areas warming up as promised, even into central Minnesota, where it's been cooler the past couple of days. And while you are still cooler, you are heating up. Mid and upper 80s there. We have mid and upper 90s out in the central part of the Dakotas as the sizzle factor is on. Now keep in mind as we go through all of this hot weather both tonight and all the way through the weekend that as the temperature rises outside, if your car is parked in the sun, we can certainly see the temperature inside the car rise very quickly. So please check those back seats. It's not uncommon that in even 10 minutes the car temperature inside can get up to 110 or 125 degrees within a half an hour's time. Tonight, you'll want to run through the sprinkler, Stacy. It's going to be a sizzler out there. 92 degrees, slowly falling. We stay in the 90s all the way into the sunset hours. Then we cool off. Your forecast for the weekend ahead does include some thunderstorms. I'll have hour-by-hour details here in a minute. I'm going to run through the sprinkler now.
Yeah, pool cast. I like it. Thanks, Hutch.
You bet.
Fargo police have arrested the man they were looking for yesterday, accused of setting a fire at the Frying Pan. They plan to charge 29-year-old Nathan Oren with aggravated endangering by fire. He's suspected of starting a fire in the restaurant's dumpster last month. Then it spread to the roof of the building. It was just one of a string of dumpster fires that occurred that week. Recognize these faces. They're on the Grand Forks weekly wanted list. The man there in the middle, Christopher Lane, is wanted in connection to the shooting at the Quality Inn last Saturday. If you know where he or anyone else pictured is, you're asked to contact Grand Forks Police. Police in Valley City are asking for your help finding the person behind a trailer theft that happened on Sunday in an industrial area on the south side of town. Police say a 2020 ABU brand trailer was stolen. If you have any information, contact police at the number there on your screen. A Fargo bishop who since passed away has been added to the list of clergy members with credible accusations of sexual abuse. The Diocese of Lansing, Michigan has been looking into accusations against James Sullivan several decades ago when he was a priest. They found credible evidence of sexual misconduct with children. The Fargo Diocese says there weren't any allegations against Sullivan during his time in Fargo, where he passed away in 2006. Sacred Heart Middle School was originally named after Sullivan. It was changed due to the allegations. Boy Scouts of America has reached an $850 million settlement with tens of thousands of people who say they were sexually abused. It's the largest child sexual abuse settlement in U.S. history. More than 84,000 people are part of that lawsuit against the 110-year-old organization, which has been plagued with claims of abuse from volunteers and leaders since the 1960s. The Boy Scouts of America filed for bankruptcy last year as it faced mounting legal costs to defend itself against those claims. An attorney for more than 16,000 people say the majority of his clients are in their 60s and 70s, and the abuse happened while they were in their teens. At the site of the deadly building collapse in Florida, the death count has climbed to 20, including 3 children. 128 people are still unaccounted for, and now the clock is ticking down to a new danger, a possible tropical storm arriving in just a few days. Omar Villafranca is in Surfside with the latest.
Workers search by hand, combing through the debris for victims. The hope for survivors fading fast.
As long as we are operating in a rescue mode, which we currently are, the hope is there, even if it's just one more.
Safety concerns interrupted their painstaking work. When it resumed, it brought new tragedy.
Last night we did discover 2 additional victims. Tragically, one of those victims was the 7-year-old daughter of a City of Miami firefighter.
The fire chief says the work is taking a toll.
Unfortunately, we haven't been able to remove any survivors yet, but it's very difficult. And last night was even more, when removing a fellow firefighter's daughter.
Now, a new danger is approaching. A hurricane forecast to reach Florida as soon as Sunday evening.
It's just so challenging. So many different obstacles, one after the other.
The search is proceeding with extra caution, while engineers assess the part of the building still standing and whether it's at risk of collapsing. Maggie Ramsey's mother, Magali Delgado, lived in the 12-story condominium and was inside when it crashed down in the middle of the night.
She came from Cuba in '61, worked all her life, was really living her best life right now. She loved being at the beach, and she loved her 2 grandchildren.
On Thursday night, Ramsey was informed her 80-year-old mother's remains had been identified in the rubble. Omar Villafranca, CBS News, Surfside, Florida.
Officials say the portion of the building that's still standing will have to be demolished, but that work will not start for some time. President Biden says the June jobs report gives Americans something else to celebrate this 4th of July weekend. The economy added 850,000 jobs last month as businesses continue to open up and people venture out more. The president says his administration has made historic progress in the recovery from the devastating effects of the pandemic.
Instead of workers competing with each other for jobs that are scarce, employers are competing with each other to attract workers. That kind of competition in the market doesn't just give workers more ability to earn higher wages, it also gives them the power to demand to be treated with dignity and respect in the workplace. More jobs, better wages. That's a good combination.
More than 11 million people are still enrolled in pandemic-related assistance programs. The Justice Department is halting federal executions after a historic use of capital punishment by the Trump administration. Attorney General Merrick Garland says he's imposing a moratorium on executions while the Justice Department does a review of its policies and procedures. The Trump administration carried out 13 executions in 6 months. President Biden has said he opposes the death penalty, and his team vowed that he would take action to stop its use while in office. Many of us are getting ready to head out to the lakes, and with that influx of visitors, police in Detroit Lakes have a few reminders to keep you safe and out of trouble. On the 4th of July, they say the entire department will be out on the streets keeping the community safe. They want to remind you fireworks are prohibited in Minnesota. You'll have to leave your pets and alcohol at home if you head to the beach. Also, the Detroit Lakes police chief says sober driving will be heavily enforced this weekend.
Don't drink and drive. There's going to be so many people and tourists in the area, and your judgment is going to be inhibited, and we just would discourage that and just stop it from being a problem before it starts.
You should also expect some traffic delays. Chief Todd says if you're wanting to leave today and avoid traffic, the later you can leave, the better. The heat wave has turned deadly in one part of the country. Next, we'll tell you about a union that's now pushing for protection for its workers.
And the heat is building here across the valley as today many hit those 90-degree temperatures, particularly north and west. It does look even hotter for the weekend as we challenge records. Your hour-by-hour forecast is coming up. Join me. Weather is next.